I would ask everyone to stand
I don't need
or
you for
remain
that.
standing as our color guard from the Derby Police Department
Finally got here.
some of our teams out to the flagpole where the players of the Derby High School baseball team will raise the flag. We'll have singing of the national anthem. Honor guard. And now, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll have the Derby High and Derby Middle School chorus singing the national anthem. Thank you so much. Good morning. And welcome to a very special and historic moment in the history of Connecticut's smallest city. The dedication and ribbon cutting for the spectacular Payden Field and J. Payden Field House. My name is Jack Walsh, and I'm a proud Derby High graduate and lifelong resident of Derby. Honored to be your master of ceremonies today. I'm sure that you will be thrilled, especially since we had a little delay, to know that Joan has requested that speeches be kept to a minimum today. And we're going to honor her request and let these beautiful facilities speak for themselves. It's now my distinct pleasure to introduce two people who have been involved with this project from the very earliest days when they wrote the original application to the state of Connecticut that resulted in a grant of $2.9 million that got the ball rolling on this project and concludes today with the dedication of this incredible complex. Superintendent of Schools Dr. Matt Conway and Business Manager Mark Izzo will introduce an extraordinary woman whose family history in Derby dates back more than 100 years and made this day possible. Matt?
Good morning. As many of you know, Derby is a community rich with traditions. Derby is a community that prides itself on our traditions, on remembering, on recognizing and paying tribute to those who have lived in Derby, attended our schools, played on our fields. You get that the first time you talk to somebody from Derby. I think about all the experiences over the past 4 years with both projects, but specifically the last 2.5 years that have been created and touched all of us in ways we could never have imagined. Experiences that have taught us about empathy, patience, understanding what it means to sacrifice so that those who follow will have a better experience. Learning more about JR and his life here in Derby and abroad. Discovering more about Derby's rich history. And learning much, much more about Joan's new favorite topic, dirt. As we moved 42,600 tons of it to make way for this true field of dreams, Payden Park, and this incredible J.R. Payden Field House. Joan, you have created a landmark, but it's so much more than a landmark. It's a place for us to gather, to eat as a family, as we reminisce on the traditions that continue to define who we are as a family and what makes this family and this city the great place that it is. For athletes to practice, to compete, to develop a sense of who they are. But a place we could only have dreamed of until that phone call from Joan to Marty on January 11th, 2017.
Having probably lived in the Valley until high school, and I must admit it was Aunt Sonia, and then coming to this complex for the Cheshire Derby Games in the mid-'70s, I stand here today and I look at this spectacular facility. Wow. It's truly a great gift to all of us from a kind, caring, and family-loving woman named Joan Payden. As you know, Joan is the President and Chief Executive Officer of Payden Field, a global investment firm with well over $100 million in assets under management with locations in Los Angeles, where they're headquartered, Boston, London, and Milan. Yet with all his responsibility in running a company of this size throughout the world, Joan repeatedly stated that this is one of the most important projects in her entire life. I will always cherish the phone calls with Joan, asking why there weren't more people working on the project. And we did set up a webcam so Joan could see the progress from LA. Or the camera was down, which we'd had to fix. Or making sure that I had enough money to pay the bills. That's the kind of person Joan Payden is. So thanks to her generosity and love for her family in this great city of Derby, today we celebrate the dedication of J.R. Payden Field House and Payden Park. Joan, we can never thank you enough. I'm humbled and I'm honored to have been part of this great project. May God bless you for your gift to all of us. Thank you.
In Derby, we bleed tradition. We honor our past and we pay tribute to their heritage. And as Joan reminded me several times over the past 2.5 years, as she would say, Matt, this is my heritage. If I were to write a book about this project, I would call it A Daughter's Love for Her Father. Please join me in welcoming Joan Payden.
What a wonderful day. I'm honored to be here. And Matt and Jack said it all here, so I'm going to be short and sweet, but I would like to say a few words. Here we are at J.R. Park. J.R. was my father. He was an only child. His father died when he was quite early in his life. So he was a single mother, and not a lot of mentoring when you really think of it. And I think, you know, upon reflection, I think that this high school and the education here must have meant a great deal to him, because he graduated and he kept everything. I found things like the Outlook. He was on the staff of the Outlook, and his speech for graduation was 100 years of peace. Sort of ironic when you look back on it. But he got a scholarship to Yale in engineering, and he was there for 2 years, and the war broke out. He immediately enlisted, never told his mother, in the Army, but he wanted to fly. And I never really understood where that came from. And I'm sure maybe somewhere it came from his experience in this institution here. We didn't have an Air Force. We had the Signal Corps. But I believe it was MIT took about 7 or 8 young men and gave them ground training. And they had the selection to go to the UK or the French. And he selected the UK and became a first lieutenant in the RAF. He was a fighter pilot. And I think it was 3.5 weeks, the average tenure of fighter pilots. Went into France, came back out, graduated from Yale, and had only one job in his life, and it was with a large chemical firm, Union Carbide. He was there a few years, and they said, we're expanding in the Far East. Would you like to go out there? And he spent about 15 years out there before he got married, setting up their business lines. And then he got married to Mary Reynolds, who graduated from Shelton, my mother, and had Bill and I. Bill is no longer with us, but my brother was a college professor, very intellectual. I'm not intellectual, I'm just practical. But I don't have children, but secondary education is one of my passions. So we were very young at the time, and he came home one day and he said, you know, they want me to go there, they want me to go back out to the Far East. So I was brought up in Jakarta, Indonesia, and it made me realize that the world is global at a very young age. But we came back to this country and we settled not too far away from here. And my education was in the East. And I had been in California a long time. But my genes, as Matt so aptly said, are here. But I also would like to reminisce that the education on this institution here, I think, must be very, very special, because the people here that I've met have been extraordinary. But I'd like to go back a little bit and tell you about that phone call at the beginning. It was in January, you got it down, January 11th, my gosh. Bill and I, a number of years ago, decided that we would like to do something for Shelton and Derby High School. And what do? So we gave 2 scholarships to each institution. And that was sort of rote. It came up every year, and I didn't think too much of it. And I really don't know why I made the phone call, but I thought, maybe they have some sort of a program that I could be helpful with. And that's when I called the principal, and he said, "Who is this?" And I told him, and he said, "Oh, you're that woman in California." I said, "That's me." And that began 2.5 years of an extraordinary experience. It was, I can't tell you how much it meant to me, how much I enjoyed it. And, but the main thing, the takeaway was the passion and the commitment of so many of the people in this community. And I hesitate in mentioning names, but I've got to. There are 3 individuals, and we would not be standing here today. I can't tell you. I had a live feed every morning. Someone told me, and if I didn't get it, I got very upset. But Dr. Matt Conway, an amazing individual, and you have no idea what dirt means. Yellow dirt, green dirt, and red dirt. But anyway, and the other person was Mr. Moneybags, Mark Izzo. Not 1 cent went out unless he knew where it went. And I've been involved in many, many organizations. And let me tell you, the management was amazing here. There was another person, another organization that I would like to mention, and sometimes that's not the case, and that was the construction people. Turner Construction, a huge organization. We were a very small part of that, and the Dan Wilson, who was the executive in charge of it, he cared, and the 3 of them made this happen, which I think is pretty extraordinary. I'd like to end up with a story that you might enjoy. As you know, I've been involved in the investment area for a long time, and we recently opened up an office in Italy, in Milan. And in Milan, the fashion trade and the financial business are sort of together. They're both very important. And so we opened up an office there last year, and the head of it visited us in California, and Bill had this very extensive memorabilia collection, and he saw that. But last year he said to me, we need some art here. And I said, art? Okay, go out and buy some. Oh, no. We'd like some of the memorabilia. And the Italians are wonderful people, and they love our sports. So in the boardroom are all these jerseys lined up. And in that context, I was telling them about Derby and about this project. Send me pictures, they said. And I said, okay. So I sent the pictures. Well, a couple days ago, Niccolo called me and said, Joan, we haven't gotten pictures lately. Is Derby finished? I said, yes. And I just wanted to let you know that you're all global. They know about you. And with that, I will end. Many, many Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Joan. You know, I don't even know how you solve that.
There's one other person that,
But
my cousin Meg, who lives in Oxford, she's an aeronautical engineer, and she kept
taking away my thunder,
straight.
and we will hear from Becky in just a minute. But before that, I'd like to invite Derby students Zoe Denaro, Riley Netto, Sabrina Hancock, Lanny O'Hara, and Alyssa Caruso to join me out there. They have a couple of special presentations today. And of course, the first one is the beautiful roses. And now, if you look to my left, they are unfurling a very special banner. Actually, there are two of them. And these banners are signed by all the students at Derby High School and Derby Middle School in recognition of their great appreciation for what you've done for not only their present, but their future.
Can I have that?
Yes, you are.
The boardroom.
John, you want to take a picture with them over here? Want to take a picture with the students? Yeah, we can do it later. We can do it later. Let's do it. Go right with the students.
I'm old school. I don't know. My kids are all right.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you, young ladies and gentlemen. And now, as I said, Joan stole my thunder a little bit. Our next speaker is a person very special to Joan. And she's been kind of Joan's liaison on the ground here throughout the project. And I think some of you may recognize Meg because Meg was here at the very first public event held on this field. She's one of the speakers at the Derby High School graduation this year. So, Meg, for a few words.
Hi everybody, so excited to be here, and it's been quite the journey with Joan and all of you nice people here in Derby. Thank you so much for including me in this. This has been a great service opportunity for me, and just I played high school sports, so I love doing anything with the high school kids, and just to be a part of this, and softball was awesome. And Joan, I just wanted to say to you that it's a great thing that you've done here. I remember a book that your brother Bill had given me. It was a book on the war and the Holocaust, and there's a quote that says, "If you save a life, you save the world." So to impact even just one kid here, I think is just so monumental. And I know that Bill, who's not here today, he's so proud of you, your whole family. He's so proud of you. So just honored to be part of this. Thank you.
Get my bearings here a little bit. In your program, we had the Lieutenant Governor was going to be a speaker today, but unfortunately she's not going to be able to make it. But I do want to recognize a couple of our state legislators that are here. Linda Gentile, who recently retired as a legislator, but was heavily involved, Linda's over here, in the original funding, and Kara Rochelle, who's Linda's successor in the legislature. And I want to thank them for recognizing and funding this project, which is just so important to the city of Derby. And it's great that the state recognized that the smallest city in the state doesn't have land and needs a project like this a lot more than the bigger and wealthier states around. So, thank you. And speaking of Derby, it's now my pleasure to introduce our Honorable Mayor, Richard Zekin, who has two special presentations to make. Mayor?
Thank you, everybody, and welcome to Payden Park. Joan, thank you for this wonderful, wonderful gift. On behalf of the citizens of Derby, I have a proclamation. Whereas Joseph R. Payden was a 1915 graduate of Derby High School, veteran of World War I, and a 1919 graduate of Yale University. Whereas Joseph Payden and his wife Mary Joseph Reynolds Payden were the proud parents of William Payden and Joan Payden, who lived in Larchmont, New York. Whereas Joan Payden has embraced her father's love and affection for his alma mater, Derby High School, by funding an annual scholarship for the valedictorian of each graduating class. Whereas Joan Payden's vision to provide Derby High School students a premier outdoor athletic complex is reality because of her tenacity and financial generosity. And whereas the generosity of Joan Payden will create a lifetime of immeasurable memories for the generation of all ages who have the pleasure of using J.R. Payden Field House, the J.R. Payden Field, the Flippo Field, all part of the Leo F. Ryan Athletic Complex in the city of Derby. Therefore, I urgently declare the city of Derby, in conjunction with the unanimous vote of the Board of Aldermen and Alderwomen, in sincere recognition of her profound contribution to the city of Derby. We do hereby proclaim Saturday, October 12, 2019, the Joan A. Payden Day in the city of Derby, and do hereby bestow upon her the title Honorary Citizen of the city of Derby. We call upon every citizen to thank Joan Payden for her generosity. Signed, witness here at today's date. Congratulations. The city of Derby for you. It opens up pretty much every building.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, I don't think I've ever seen a key in the city before. Before our next speakers, I'd like to take a minute to thank all the coaches and players at the high school, middle school, and city recreation programs who have so patiently put up with all the hardships and inconveniences caused by interruptions to their programs during the building of these amazing facilities. I think they would all agree today that it's all good ones. That list should also include our high school Martin Pascal, Martin, raise your hand, athletic director Matt Bradshaw, as well as our hardworking city recreation director Dennis O'Connell. Dennis, give us a wave. Now I'd like to ask the chairman of the Board of Education, Jim Gilday, to come forward for a few words.
Mrs. Payden, 52 seconds. I timed it. Good morning, everybody.
Alone 52
The
seconds.
transformation of this complex from what was once here to what is here now is simply amazing. And not only for this area, but for the entire city. And somebody who's been here for 52 years, this transformation is generational. Absolutely generational. So it is very appropriate that all future generations, whether it be Flippo Field or the aptly named Payden Park, will forever, every generation will forever see the J.R. Payden Field House adorn that building and Payden Park adorn the city sky forever. As someone who was born in Derby, raised in Derby, stayed in Derby, and raised my own family in Derby, I can say that this is the most exciting thing that has ever happened to this town. And in this short period of time, I've already watched faces of countless children, Pop Warner, Derby High School, city residents, experience this breathtaking facility. And I can only imagine
close my eyes and wonder how many more children are going to be impacted by the generosity of Ms. Payden and get to experience this field. So on behalf of the current and future students, coaches, parents, spectators, all Derby residents, and the Board of Education, I would just like to thank you and extend a hearty thank you very much.
Anytime he comes in and gives me a word for it, which is 2 seconds, you know, he makes me feel quite old because Jimmy was a student at the old middle school when I was a teacher. Wow. Okay, next, like I say, there were many people involved in the committees working on this project. And City Treasurer Keith Liberty had the difficult job of chairing the Athletic Complex Committee, and he has a few comments. Keith?
Good morning and thank you. They say that you never stand so tall as when you bend to help a child. Today, Ms. Payden, you are a giant. A giant in the eyes of each and every child that will participate in athletic events here. Every student athlete from yesterday, today, and tomorrow. Your gift to your dad's hometown is the envy of high school programs throughout the state and throughout the Northeast. Your generosity is beyond words. They also say to never forget your roots, where you come from, how you got to where you are today. You never did forget your roots and those of your dads. Your dedication to his hometown is a clear example of your love for him and your roots here in Derby. For your dad is one of Derby's sons. There's a musician by the name of Zach Brown, and he sees a song called Roots. And the chorus goes, "My roots always keep me grounded. Roots remind me where I'm from. Even when I'm 1,000 miles away from my roots, I'm home." Welcome home, Ms. Payden.
Thanks, Keith. You know, your job in the committee is not quite done yet, but you must feel a great sense of relief and pride at seeing this dream come true today. I'd like to thank 2 other groups, and I know they're in the audience someplace who were heavily involved, and Joan actually mentioned both of them before. But it asks for a round of applause for Turner Construction and Castle Booze, who not only designed it, but built this incredible facility. I also want to recognize I see we have, say, Senator George Logan is here today visiting with us. We said we'd keep this program short, and I think we're doing that. As we come to the conclusion of the program, and head over to cut the ribbon to open this gorgeous new field house, I'd ask you to pause for a minute and reflect on the lengthy history of Derby High School, which graduated its first class in 1877, when the school was known as Birmingham High School. Baseball had become a school sport by the 1890s, when baseball truly was the national pastime. By 1904, football was added to the sports program of the school, followed by basketball in 1905. Back in those early days, the high school didn't have a building of its own. It was located on the top floors of the old Urban Grammar School, where the Board of Education offices are today. And basketball was played in Gold's Armory. I bet there are 5 people who know where Gold's Armory was, because it doesn't exist. Eventually, a new high school on Minerva Street was built. In the late 1930s, during the Depression, this area, then known as Coon Howell, no buildings, no structures here, was built as Coon Howell Park, with an all-in-one football and baseball field surrounded by a cinder track. State of the art for the time, and something for the city to be proud of for generations. Eventually a new high school and a new middle school were also built there. And we have an incredible campus here to think about. We have our middle school, we have our high school, we have all our athletic facilities here. We have a beautiful state park across the street, and we have a public library right at the bottom of the hill. This is one of the nicest school complexes, campuses in the state of Connecticut. J.R. Payden was one of those who played baseball and football for Derby High. He went to the old Derby High School and played on those early fields. A true scholar before anyone was a true scholar athlete, before anyone even used that term. He was class valedictorian and editor of the school literary magazine. I think his story and the Payden family story is an inspirational story for generations to come. JR's family was one from modest means as they grew up in Derby, but he took advantage of the educational and athletic opportunities offered to build a strong foundation. And then, like many other Derby High graduates, he went off to follow his dreams. He then passed along those dreams and principles and fond memories of Derby to his children. And that's why we're standing here today. I wonder what he would think if he could see this now. So thank you, Joan, for giving generations of Derby students to come to these world-class facilities as they begin to pursue their own dreams. I hope that they come to have the same appreciation for their hometown that your father had and emulate the passion, commitment, and enthusiasm that have been hallmarks of your own successes. Thank you. With that, it's time to move over to the field house to cut a ribbon. Let me quickly also thank the committee who planned this event. And I give a special shout out to Board of Education member Laura Harris, who chaired the committee. You notice Laura isn't with us yet. A commitment that was made long before this date was set. But hopefully, Laura, you're watching us on the live stream right now. The other members of the committee are listed on the program. Also wanted to acknowledge the great work done behind the scenes by Danny Godwalla in the superintendent's office, who handled all the paperwork and the meetings and the schedules and kept everyone on track. All right, now let me explain our next steps and the rest of the day's activities. We're all going over to the entrance to the field house to cut the ribbon. And then you will all have the opportunity to go inside, enjoy some tasty refreshments from Sal Giannotti and his staff in the great room. While you are all enjoying the food, I would ask that all the members of the baseball and field house committees, as well as the athletic complex committee, join Joan, her family, and Dr. Conway in the memorabilia room. And of course, I hope that you will all stay and root home your Derby Red Raiders as they play Wilby at 1 o'clock on the Filippo Field in this exciting new Leo F. Ryan athletic complex. So with that, please join us at the entrance. Thank you.
Perfect.
God, look at that.
They're actually great with, they're very good. You hold on tight.
Okay. Never done this before. Hey, Matt.